No news on the Jamal Murray. Nope, wait, hang on. I'm hearing. Oh, that's right. There's news on the Jamal Murray front. That and a lot of hoops talk tonight on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making this your first listen each and every day. We're free and we're available on all platforms, including YouTube, which you should go and subscribe to because it's the best way for you to support the show. If you're just like, man, I love those guys. They're so great. Adam's whole thing on leadership last night was so fantastic. If you want to know how to best support the show, go over to YouTube, search for Locked On Nuggets, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, sign up for notifications, join the show, join the chat where Zamora jumped in like 3 seconds after this show started. And you can be a part of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks.com and use promo code NBA or go to the App Store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. On today's show, we're going to talk about Jamal Murray and the latest news on him. We'll get into some combined reactions. We didn't get to do it together last night on the win over the Sixers, as well as where the Nuggets stand in the playoff race. And we'll ponder a possible matchup with the Memphis Grizzlies a little later on. Adam, let's start with the big news of the day. As reported by Harrison Wind of a little shop called DNVR, Jamal Murray is making his way to Grand Rapids, Michigan. He is going to practice with the Gold. This morning, I was like, what's the Gold schedule? Because we kind of heard that the reason that nobody had been sent down there was that they were on a road trip and they didn't really have time. They were going to be on the road, and you don't send guys down on the road. They don't. That's not
I don't like this, Matt.
And so then the Gold have a bunch of home games, and and so now Jamal's going to go down there and practice. He won't play in the games. That's not how it works. It's the Nuggets will not have practice because they're in the middle of an 82-game season. And because the NBA schedules it this way, nobody has time for practice except for like 3 times a year. And so there's not time. So to get Jamal Murray's conditioning up, this is a pretty significant step. He's going to be actually participating in practice on some level. We don't know what that means.
Well, so I think we saw that it was going to be 4-on-4 first. And then if that goes well, 5-on-5. So
that last guy is where the injury is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the 5th guy makes it all the harder. No, my read, and again, we're all looking through a glass darkly on this. Like, I don't think we have a firm sort of answer. And I see people in here. Does that mean 50-50? It's now 60-40. Like, I honestly don't know what all of this means. I think it's all really difficult. The sense I get, Matt, and maybe you feel the same, maybe you feel differently, is that this is a sort of, hey, let's try out. Like, we haven't ramped it up. Let's try it out. 4-on-4. To me, it's like, we're going to try the most strenuous work to date, and we're going to see how that goes. And if it goes well, we'll go to 5-on-5. And if that goes well, okay, let's make a plan here. But so this almost to me felt more like this is the test to see if he's going to be able to make it back. So I don't know if it's up or down. I think it's more just let's try out and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not bad news. It's certainly not bad news. I understand being a little bit like, my immediate response was I kind of did shift back the other way. Like, I was like, oh, okay. It's March 15th. Gonna be cutting it close, but this at least, like, I think
so close.
I understand, but here's the thing. They have been insistent that there is not a drop dead date. That there is not
like right.
That there isn't if it's April 1st and he's not back, we're not going to do it. It's when he's ready, and that is all that has ever been said. I do like Hurricane commenting 51.3 to 48.7% chance now. I like that. That's the percentages are what matters here. Yeah, I think if Jamal's in I'll say here's the biggest thing. If Jamal's ready to go to Grand Rapids and participate in this, that's a significant step forward for him. Because that means that he feels like, yes, I can go do this. Like,
right.
I'm it also means that he's ready to actually, we're going to start heading towards you playing professional basketball again. And there's a lot that goes into that in terms of how he feels
Can
about
I
his
explain
body.
it? Have you had a major injury like that has prevented you? I mean, I'll kind of share. I've had two. I
Just
told
share your story. You don't have to you
I
don't
realized
have
I
to
said it. Maybe I didn't know
have
if
to
you
totally
wanted to
top
share
me.
or not.
Just tell me about your messed up knee. It's fine.
Well, no, so I have two, and I'm going to use the other one. So I tore a quadricep tendon, 5-6 years ago, and was obviously unable to like run or anything for months. But the other one, I had a heart surgery about 6-7 years ago because I had a condition called aflutter. Most people know AFib, aflutter, where my heartbeat went irregular. And the thing that happens, the sensation of that heart condition was my heartbeat would out of nowhere start to feel like I was on a treadmill, like I was out of breath and my heart was going, so fast. So after I got it fixed, had to have a surgery. After I got it fixed, it was very hard for me to run because what happens when you run? Your heartbeat goes up. And I'm like, this feels like I'm having that sensation again and I need to go to the ER, or it feels like I'm just running. It's hard to know the difference. For a leg injury, a knee injury, I imagine with Jamal Murray, there's a lot of things he does that feel like he is tearing his ACL or putting it at risk to be torn. When he's not, it's just that you kind of have to mentally get over that hurdle of it's strong. I have to get back to trusting it and this or that. And I just always feel like I'm not doing that. And I imagine, just we've heard a lot of this about, hey, it's at his own pace, this or that. I imagine that is a lot of what he's dealing with of you got to get over this mental hurdle to you're good to go. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but you just have to get used to it again.
The worst injury I think I've had outside of concussions from car accidents.
Oof.
Fell once and broke my tailbone. That was bad.
Oh.
But this one was the most painful. In college, playing basketball, suffered like one of those really like a nasty ankle sprain. Like
Yeah.
it was it was really swelled up. So I get in the car and I drive back to my hometown for the weekend. And I don't know if you know this, I come from a small town in Arkansas. And I was in the parking lot of my high school talking to some friends because it was like my sophomore year. And a truck rolls by in camo. Guy screams out, "Woo!" and throws something out of the truck. And it skids across the road and slams into my ankle.
Ow.
It was a decapitated deer head. So this giant deer skull skids across at high speed after being launched from a vehicle and slams into my sprained ankle. And that, my friend, is only probably my fifth most Arkansas story that I have.
Bro, this is a total like Coen Brothers movie.
Yes.
Like this is like you're in a Coen Brothers movie here.
Yes. Just get me John Turturro hanging out. So I think if we JMFR with WTL
In Arkansas.
So
that's a wild story.
Just thought I would share that. If we're gonna do injury stories, mine are at least interesting. So my worst injury was a broken heart. No, okay. With Jamal, I agree that like there's the mental that mental side is always kind of the hardest part of it. I do think it's gonna be curious. Look, I also think if we're like this is a show for fans, right? Like this is a show to talk to like hardcore Nuggets fans. If you're listening to this, you love the Nuggets. You need to at least be a little bit prepared for the idea that Jamal comes back, is not ready, and then is just shut down again. Like we haven't talked about that. That's a very real possibility with where we're at in the season.
Can I tell you something? I think I would prefer that possibility than him just doesn't play, because part of me thinks like there's just some value to getting on the court, even if it's only like 3 games and weren't there. Let's try this again next year. There's something to it that I think is important to me. So I hope it happens that way, but I wouldn't only say this. I wouldn't only say that there's a possibility. I just kind of feel like there's a likelihood. I mean, we're 14 games away. There's 14 games left. 2 more on this road trip. He's not coming back for that. I don't think he would go down to Grand Rapids for the first time and then come back on Sunday. Like I just think that we're probably talking about at the very quickest 10 games or fewer. And every game that goes by, you're like, okay, so there's 5 games, there's 6 games, like 4 games left to get ready. I just think the odds of him being ready to be a positive impact player are very, very slim. I still think you try it though. I still think you put him out there because it's like, that's how you win big.
Paul George came back and looked terrible when he came back from his broken leg. Horrible. Like it was like, well, that sucks. Paul George is never going to be the same again. And he only came back with like a month left in the season. Pacers missed the playoffs, the end. Like Paul George came back and went right back to kicking ass.
Yeah.
So like, I'm kind of with you that it would be good just to be like, oh, okay, like I've like back on the court, hasn't been that long. You know, you get through all the, honestly, a lot of it's like the emotional side too, you know, like injuries are traumatic. They just are. That's how we're wired. And like, there's an evolutionary reason for it. We're designed to treat injuries as don't do that again, because it risks your body if you're in like hunter gatherer mode. So, yeah, Hurricane says this. You gotta know how NBA feels like and prepare yourself for 98 games of it next year. I agree with that, but ultimately it entirely is like, here's the next step. We'll see how Jamal feels after, and we'll kind of go from there.
One of my favorite Kobe things, I remember when he tore his Achilles and he went out and hit those 2 free throws, and he says, mentally, my rehab started right there. He's like, it was important for me to go out there to kind of tell myself, like, this is going to be hard. This is going to be difficult. And you got to do like, and I just think the same for Jamal, like whether he comes back and it gets to play in the playoffs or not, if he gets to come back and just be like, this is part of my road back. I need to be out there and remind myself that I play at that level. And I just think it'd be good for him.
By the way, MPJ will not be going to Grand Rapids this week.
Right.
He will not be down there or over there. That's a better term for it. Over there, up there. I guess slightly up there.
Up there. Yeah, I think it's up there.
Over and up there. He won't be over and up there. But Jamal Murray takes a step forward, and we'll keep you updated as the news allows. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get some reaction between the two of us to the game last night. Now that we're a day removed from it, we'll talk about where the Nuggets are in the standings, how all that shakes out. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I got to tell you about PrizePicks. Okay, NBA fans, are you looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA? Then you need to try the award-winning app, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We love it, and we know you will too. You just pick 2 to 5 players and over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times an entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. They can be made in 60 seconds or less. That's how quick you can make an entry. It's that easy. PrizePicks is safe, and it offers fast withdrawals. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. They've got a variety of options. Any prop you can think of, from points scored to rebounds and steals. They've got mixed sport entries. You can combine it with, I don't know, say hockey, and you want to get in on the Avalanche, who I saw on Sunday night beat the Flames. Absolutely smoked them. Shut out. Let's go Avs. Yeah, I'm not a Nuggets fan. I am definitely an Avalanche fan. And PrizePicks don't just offer NBA. They've got options on the college basketball, college football, NFL, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. And for a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. But you got to use code NBA. That's right. An exclusive offer just for our Locked On NBA fans. Sign up today and use code NBA for $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thank you for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. It's got nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. All right, Adam. So now that we're 24 hours removed from the win in Philadelphia, take on the Wizards tomorrow night. You before the show, you seemed still pretty stoked that they got that win last night. I'll ask you this: did it feel like a bigger win or just a more enjoyable one?
More enjoyable if you had to compare and contrast. I do think it was a big win, and not because it was the 76ers. It was just a big win because every win from here on out is a big win. And it allowed Denver to stay ahead of Minnesota by those 2 games. But it was an enjoyable one. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This was a narrative battle. There was a lot of just sort of bragging rights on the line and that stuff, and Denver got the upper hand.
Give the hot take. You got to give the hot take. It's too good to keep.
Are you talking about my theory about the game?
Yes.
About this? So here's the thing. When I went back and rewatched it, one of my takeaways, I think Jokic Bill Russelled Joel Embiid in that game. You go back and watch the first quarter in particular, but really all the first, second, and third quarters, Jokic really gave Embiid a ton of spacing on his jumper, on his like pick and pops and his free throw line jumpers. So much so Hubie Brown is calling the game, is saying like, Jokic's got to get closer to that. What's he doing? And I was thinking the same thing. I think it was twofold. One, I think it was just to make him play a perimeter oriented game, and two, to keep Jokic out of foul trouble. But in the fourth quarter, he mixed it up and he started getting into him and pressuring him. And I think that one, Embiid just ran out of steam. Like Joel Embiid played that whole third quarter. I don't think that's his regular rotation, and then just kind of got gassed down the stretch and was starting to miss little plays in the here and there. But Jokic also started to pressure him and get into him in the fourth quarter, and it just changed everything. And I thought Embiid, he hit one shot that, he banked it pretty hard. I don't know. It was whatever. It was a good shot. And he had another, I think, a 3-pointer or something. But outside of that, he had some shots he missed in that fourth quarter that he was making the rest of the game.
Yeah. And I think I will say this. I think it's been cool to see so much of the defensive conversation about Jokic has really, in my opinion, kind of slowly muted into the background. Like over the last couple of weeks, you got the game-winning blocks. You got how he played down the stretch versus Embiid, which is great. I thought he played really great defense last night. I thought he was really good on the defensive end, and
especially in that fourth, you could just kind of tell that he knew, like in the fourth quarter, he knew what he wanted to kind of force the defense to do, including Harden, but I think especially with Embiid. And part of this is like, you have to think about it, giving Embiid open shots. And by the way, a lot of those shots were like Jokic just saying like, yeah, take it if you want. Like there's something built in there about Embiid. If Embiid had to go back, if I was coaching Joel Embiid and they were to match up again tomorrow, I would say you can either score 40 points or you can win this game. And what you have to do is you can either take these free throw line jumpers and just love it and whatever, or you can go drive and try to draw fouls on and just make Jokic guard you all game long. Because quite frankly, Jokic didn't have to guard him that much. He just had to like contest jumpers.
My kind of like resounding, the thing I've stuck with a day later is just, I'm trying to envision what's Bones going to be. Right. So, there's time to let it sort itself out, but it is an interesting question. I think of, okay, is he going to be like a Lou Williams 6-man firebug scorer? Is this like a long-term, is he going to be the starting 2 guard? Next to Jamal? Is it, something in between? There's a lot of different options for how this plays out. It's really fascinating. I will continue to try and like here's what's interesting. This is what I'm battling. Okay. So, I always say this, right? Things too high, try to bring them down. Things too low, try to bring them up, right? So trying to like find the middle spot. So everybody's like super high on Bones. So naturally my inclination is to be like, okay, but like the weight issue on defense is going to continue to be a problem because he does get completely bowled over in certain matchups. But there's also that part of me that's like, you get too far into these things where you hyperanalyze and you forget like the overall thing, which is just the dude's a bucket. Like the guy just scores and he's able to make plays for others and he brings a lot to the table. And he genuinely play. The Nuggets play well when Bones is on the court. Like that's an important factor here too. So it's this one, there's been a couple of moments, the Lakers game, there's been a couple of different moments throughout the season that were kind of touchstones for Bones. This one in particular felt like maybe the one that we're going to remember the most going forward is, do you remember his rookie season, that game in Philly?
What about it? Oh, this is the game we'll remember.
Just that, like, that was a touchdown moment of Bones is going to be a big part of the Nuggets' future. Regardless. Man,
I will say, it was his arrival. Some of this is narrative driven, like him having 600 plus people in the stands, him having the first responders, and then playing that way and the shots that he hit. Like, so some of this is just from a narrative standpoint, like he burst onto the scene yesterday. But I'm with you in terms of me trying to figure out what exactly Bones is on the final form, because he almost feels too good to just say he's a backup guard. Like he's really good. I think next year he might be. I don't know if it's going to be next year that he jumps into this role, a higher role than that. But then you look at it and say, okay, well, Murray is clearly your cornerstone piece. So is it Bones and Murray? Honestly, maybe. I don't know that is the elite defensive combo that I've been talking about. But right. I do think that both of those guys are so good. Bones kind of reminds me of Murray a little bit. They have different physical tools, but he reminds me a little bit in just his ability to play out of the pick and roll. So maybe he becomes this ultra dynamic second guard that makes Denver unstoppable on offense and their defense kind of works collectively. I don't know, but he's good. You're right that I look at him and I go, if they were to trade Bones away in the offseason, it would have to be for a major piece because he's that good of a player.
The Denver Nuggets magic number to clinch a play-in spot is 1. They will likely do that tomorrow with a win versus the Wizards or a loss by the Portland Trailblazers versus the New York Knicks, I believe is who they're playing. So they're going to clinch a play-in spot tomorrow.
Yeah.
The reason I want to bring this up to you is, look, you and I were okay. Being that we cover the team, we kind of like have a better idea. We can argue about different things about how good they are, right? There's semantics, but like I did have to actually ask these questions. I answered these questions consistently in preseason. Like people were genuinely like, can they even be in the play-in without Jamal? And I was like, yeah, it's crazy. Like they're gonna win 45 plus games. Like they may not win 47, like I think. They may not win 51, like I thought, like I picked them for. They're gonna win 45 games. They're gonna be fine.
They're going to win more than 45. They're at 41 wins with 14
This
to go.
is in preseason, is what I'm
okay.
is what I was talking about. So like, I mean, they still got an outside track of hitting that over for me. Let's go.
Not to mention, I mean, they were supposed to have Michael Porter Jr. all year. It's crazy that they're even in this conversation when even being shorthanded Murray, they were actually even shorthanded more than that from the get.
Yeah. So I guess like here's the question I do have is do you think our standard of we expected them to be a playoff team, was that slightly too high? Like, is it an accomplishment just to be like, no, they're not going to miss the postseason. They lost Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. and they're still going to at the very least be a play-in team.
I think the thing that's been surprising here is that Dallas has just been so much better than I expected them to be. I mean, they're 42-26, and you look at this. I thought Phoenix was going to be a 1 seed. Memphis is also they were also been a surprise, but they've been a surprise to everyone. Golden State I thought would be very good. Utah I thought would be very good. So I thought Denver would be right there, right next to a Memphis, but ahead of a Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas has I think they've surprised everybody in how all these close games that they keep winning. So that's, to me, they're kind of where I expected them to be record-wise. I just thought that would be a 5 seed, not a 6. And then obviously the Timberwolves are 40-30. They've been great this year as well.
Yeah, I think I guess I am a little bit impressed with the fact of everything that's happened to them, and we've stressed about them being in the play-in or not. I know you're still worried. And you have reason to be. Like we're not at a point where I can be like, it's gonna be fine. We're not that far away, I'll tell you that. Like the Nuggets, like their magic number for an outright playoff spot is 12, and you're like, but they've got 13 games left. Okay, but the Wolves have a tough stretch coming up. Like the Wolves have 12 games remaining. Let's say the Wolves go like a very good 8-4, right? Then the Nuggets only have to go 8-4 to get there. If the Wolves go, 9-3, then Denver has to go a little bit higher. But if
do they beat the Lakers tomorrow?
What? Yeah.
Do they beat the Lakers tomorrow?
The Wolves? Yeah, they're going to.
It's in Minnesota. Everybody's beating the Lakers, right? I mean, you always hope. I mean, LeBron's good enough that maybe he decides to try to win that one. I don't know, but probably not. Then they've got Milwaukee. They get 3 days off and then play Milwaukee at home. That's one where that's going to be a swing one because they need to lose that. Denver needs them to lose that one. Then they've got Dallas, which is nice because no matter who loses that one, helps Denver out. Yeah. Then you got Phoenix. Then you have Dallas again. So it's actually funny. I keep wondering why 538 has their odds. That's actually part of it is Minnesota and Dallas play each other twice. So one of those teams is going to have to lose or both of them lose, and it just naturally helps Denver out a little bit.
Yeah. I think my prediction right now is it's going to be 1 Suns, 2 Warriors, 3 Grizzlies, 4 Jazz, 5 Mavericks, 6 Nuggets, 7 Wolves, 8 Clippers, 9 Lakers, 10 Pelicans. I think the Pelicans beat the Lakers in the play-in. I think the Clippers beat the Pelicans in the play-in. I think the Wolves beat the Clippers in the play-in. I think it's going to be Warriors, Wolves. And I think it's going to be Grizzlies, Nuggets, which we'll talk about in the last segment. But they're still in a pretty good spot. Look, it's tight. I'll also say, I don't know. How can I put this? Look, the one game environment is scary, right? And there's all sorts of disaster scenarios. They have a bad shooting night, right?
Narrative scenarios too. Just like if you have to go against the Lakers in a winner take all, like that's a Nick Wright specialty right there. The Nuggets lose.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that that's actually going to have to be if they lose twice, though,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Because I'll tell you, the Lakers right now, the most that they can win is 43. So the Nuggets have to get 2 more wins to not fall past 8.
I just mean if in a play-in, if Denver fell to
Yeah.
a play-in, and then
Like
would have to play them.
if they fall to 7 and the Clippers beat them, and then the
Right.
Nuggets play the Lakers in the loser versus the winner 9-10. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's possible.
Just a doomsday. I think Denver's going to be fine, but it's every game, like you can't. I don't think you can drop. Maybe you can drop one game you didn't expect from here on out, but you really can't drop more than that. And honestly, you might not be able to drop any. You got Washington, like at Washington, that's a tough game, but they just have to win those ones. At Cleveland, that's a tough game. I don't know if you have to win that one, but you got to win one of the at Cleveland or home versus Boston, and both of those are going to be really tough.
Yeah, they are. And look, their performance versus good teams has been overall bad. Like I just kind of snuck up on me until people started mentioning it, and it's a relevant thing to discuss here. Like they're 17-21 versus teams 500 or better, right? And the Suns are above 500 versus those teams. Memphis is, the Warriors are, the Jazz are, the Mavericks are, the Nuggets are the drop off. And so now a lot of that is because they've lost to Dallas and they've lost to Utah. Like that's like,
it's so annoying that they played both of those teams. The last game between them was Denver, Utah on February 2nd. Like, it's just so crazy to me that they played all of those teams then, and this last half of the season they haven't gotten a chance to play them. Such a bummer. Just an unlucky break. I will say that game against Minnesota, that is in Denver on Friday, April 1st, is a monster game. That's like the one where if Denver wins that one, the odds become even harder for Minnesota. Like then you talk about magic numbers really tilt.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about, I want to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies a little bit. I want to talk about because I've been doing a deep dive on Memphis and I want to get your thoughts on the team and the matchup and everything. I wanted to get into that with you. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, it's time. Oh, yes, it's time. I have to tell you about Built Bar. So, everyone loves marshmallow. Who doesn't love marshmallow? But the only thing better than a marshmallow is a protein-infused marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. Are you kidding me? That's right. That's the Built Bar Puffs. They got great flavors like churro and coconut marshmallow and banana cream pie. It's amazing. And most of the Built Bars have only got 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and they've all got 17 grams of protein or more. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb. Compare that to like a candy bar, which has got 240 calories and 30 grams of sugar compared to just 4 for a Built Bar. There's no competition. You got all these great flavors like mint brownie and coconut almond. And new for this month is white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and Built Bar is always making new flavors all the time. Check them out at built.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen or watch on YouTube each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Make your second listen Locked On NBA. I hosted the Monday show, which comes out on Tuesdays, and Adam hosts the Friday show, which covers the games from Thursday. He's got a doozy this week. I'm excited to break it for what he's going to have for us on Friday's show. It's going to be amazing. Have you looked at the schedule, my friend?
I might get a lucky break and not have to. I think we might do a draft show or something that day. I will say, Pistons Magic. Pistons Magic.
On Pistons Magic. I really wanted 3 segments from you.
Oh, man.
On Pistons Magic. Just breaking it all down. Just the way that Isaiah Stewart, if you watch Kelly Olynyk, like what he does with the ball, like all these types of that. I actually really like watching that Pistons team when they got Cade. They were terrible the first few months of the season, were like just so depressing. And then they remembered how to shoot. Last 2 weeks have really enjoyed watching both them and the Orlando Magic, although the Magic got waxed tonight by Kyrie. All right, so I'm doing these MVP breakdowns for action. My first one that I'm doing is Ja Morant. I will go ahead and spoil this for you. I'm doing Ja, and then I'm doing DeRozan, and then I'm doing Ja, and then I'm doing Giannis, and then I'm doing Embiid, and then I'm doing Jokic. So doing all these together. And And I do them every year. Like, it's the definitive case. I break it all down, offense, defense, all sorts of angles. And so I've learned a lot about Memphis this week because I watch all these possessions like over and over and over and over again on both sides of the ball whenever Ja's on the floor. I've learned just like a ton about them, and I picked up a lot of stuff from the Denver games. I want to ask you, look, the Grizzlies won the season series this year and looked impressive in their wins versus Denver. It was early on and things were very different. I want to get a sense from you of what you think, if it is indeed the 3-6 matchup of Denver versus the Grizzlies. What do you think about that matchup, and how do you think it plays out?
It's a tough one. I mean, what's especially tough about that one is if Jamal Murray is back, it's just they have so many good guards. It's a really tough assignment. If you ask me of all of the potential first round matchups, it's my favorite. I like it more than I do, obviously, Phoenix, Gold. I think, I don't know about you, Matt. I'm back to think, I think Golden State might win the title this year. The vibes with that team are too strong, man. They're the best vibes on in the world. But, and then Utah, maybe Utah. Maybe I feel good about Denver and Utah, but Memphis, to me, I know that Jokic hasn't necessarily had great games in that series just yet, but I think that's a series. I think in a playoff series he would be the best player on the court, and by a fair margin. And I think he would look a lot different than he had in the regular season.
Some numbers to look at. Aaron Gordon had the best on-court for the Nuggets versus the Grizzlies this season. The Nuggets were plus 10.9 in net rating when Aaron was on the floor, with a 118 offensive rating and 107 defensive rating. Monte Morris was second at 116 and then a 106.5 defensive. JaMychal Green actually had the third best. That was one of the rare early season good games for JaMychal when he played 23 minutes, 104 offensive rating, 95 defensive rating. MPJ was actually in those games as well. That's what's crazy, is if you remember, like, MPJ actually was involved in these games. And MPJ actually has a positive net rating. Nikola basically played him even because Nikola spent a lot of time at the bench. And so Nikola's numbers are 112 offensive rating, good, and a 111 defensive rating, bad. And so it's just a plus 0.7. As you would expect, they were outscored by 17.5 points whenever Nikola Jokic was off the court per 100 possessions. What I really kind of take from this is a lot of this does have to do with those bench struggles early. And I think the improved bench, there's two things. The improved bench helps them in that matchup. And then two, the fact that in a playoff series, as it goes along, you play fewer and fewer bench minutes. That also probably is going to help the Nuggets. Like, the Nuggets starting five is likely to be better overall than the Memphis starting five. And then if they win those minutes, that's how you wind up winning the series, I think.
No question about it. The other thing here to kind of keep in mind is that a lot, when you watch those games, Memphis won the hustle battle in all of them. Like, they just outquicked them. They out-efforted them. They looked like it was more important, all of that stuff, like grabbed rebounds. I just think in a playoff series, you get a little like that. Those things tend to level out. They don't necessarily level out. Sometimes that's a skill that even translates there, but I think it'll level out a lot. So I don't know. Like, look, I'm not predicting. I would say that I think Denver beats them. I just think that it's a matchup that I'd go, hey, man, I think that's closer to a coin flip matchup. And Denver, I like Denver's chances to figure something out in it.
One of the things that I'll say is the Memphis offense is not good in the half court. It just, they don't, they're great when they're able to create chaos. What I did really want to talk to you about with regards to this team, do you think Denver can control its turnovers enough to win that series? Because to me, that honestly, at this point, we've had this conversation, I've been doing the show a while, we've always talked about turnovers and how much they matter. And I think they matter more for this team because of the lack of firepower. And maybe that changes when they get Jamal and MPJ back, even if those guys aren't 100%, right? Like, maybe just the sheer firepower and gravity changes the equation. And like, surely just having better players will probably help. I do worry about, that's how you let Memphis beat you, is if you turn the ball over, then they are playing the style that they want. They want things chaotic, they want things frenetic, and they want things fast. And so, like, this is kind of the real crux of it with Denver is Denver's an exceptional half-court team that turns the ball over a ton. And if they fix those problems, then they're very difficult to stop. And if they don't fix those problems, to me, that opens the door for an upset Like that's how you can really whittle away a series that you should win, is if you can't take care of the ball.
I mean, there's no question. And the truth is that I think a lot of the reason that the turnovers are so high, Jokic has the highest turnover percentage of his career this year. I think a lot of that is just because you kind of have to take more risks on this team. And if Murray does come back even now, honestly, I think that ups the turnover risk. Like it actually brings a new player into here that's probably going to be a little off rhythm, off speed, and everything else. So turnovers are a real issue. I do think that they probably go down a little bit. You game plan a little bit more. The cutting angles and everything are more defined. In a regular season, you just kind of have your principles, but in a playoff, it's like, hey, this is what they're going to do. Here's how we're going to counter. So I'm not probably as worried as you are, but it is certainly a thing that goes back to being super worried if you get a Murray and a Porter back right before the playoffs, and it's like, man, all bets are off. This team has never played together.
Can we get some comments or can we answer some things in the comments real quick? Is that okay?
What do you got?
Well, one, there's a comparison being made about Jamal, and they're referencing Klay Thompson. I really got to keep stressing this. Guys, Klay Thompson suffered an torn Achilles and an ACL. The two most serious injuries in basketball outside of breaking your leg, the two most significant soft tissue injuries, and he suffered both of them. That's why Klay Thompson took a month between going to the G League and coming back, because it was an entirely different deal. Like, you just can't put Jamal Murray on the Klay Thompson timeline. It's nothing about it is the same. It's different players. It's different injuries. It's different situations.
Different ages.
Like, it's not the same. I get it. I understand the desire to be like, well, we could just kind of like figure out some sort. And I understand that a lot of this is because we don't have a date, right? Like the Nuggets have not said Jamal Murray will return on X. I get that. I understand that. This is why we keep asking and why they keep being very tired of us asking. But
if I were shot in the dark though, now I think Michael Porter will be back sometime next week. The earliest I would say is Sunday the 20th. Now I'm not Denver. There's very little being said about Michael Porter right now. So we know he's been in Denver. We know he's not going to the Grand Rapids team like Jamal is. I don't know if that means he's closer or farther, but my sense has been that I think he's close to being ready. Denver has a homestand, so I would not be surprised if he played Sunday, and I wouldn't be surprised. I would almost be more surprised than not if he didn't play by March 26th, that Saturday. With Murray, I look at it and I go, okay, we're down with the G League. We know he hasn't been doing a ton of contact. Like, I have a hard time believing he'd be back before April 5th. Again, this is just my own just guess based on the same information that everybody else has. But to me, I would be shocked if he was back in like a week or two.
I think I'll say this. I think you're expecting him to be with the Gold a little bit longer than he's going to be.
I'm not. But I just, like I said, if they said that 4-on-4 day one and we'll see how he does, and if he does well, we'll do 5-on-5. To me, I'm like, you don't go from let's try this out to okay, he's ready. Like you go through, try it out. Okay, let's give it a day. Let's give it 48 hours. How's the body respond? Let's start ramping up. Let's have him practice with the team. There's just all these checkpoints that just seem far away.
On Sunday, the Gold will leave for a 2-game away trip on March 21st through March 27th. So I think he's only going down for the week.
I think he'll be back with the team on Sunday. That's my guess. Yeah. So I'm with you on it. Okay. The best that could happen is he would go there and do those 2 back-to-back workouts and feel great. And the next step, if he goes down there 2 workouts, really intense, can't believe how hard he went. I just feel like there's still a lot of checkpoints after that to make sure the knee is like responding properly.
I'll also say this because let's just be real. I could be real here. The announcement for both MPJ and Jamal coming back is a large news item, and those will be doled out to various individuals whom it benefits the people that know them to leak them to. So
you made it sound nefarious. Woj, come on, everybody, Woj owns the entire NBA. There's a reason that he breaks all these stories. It doesn't sound like.
Well, that's true, but there's also the mechanism for how that's obtained. Now, I wouldn't call it nefarious, but it's transactional. And so that's part of it. I'm not he's the best, right? He's unequivocally the best reporter. But it's going to be either him or Chris Haynes or Shams Charania. Mike's done a really good job. Singer has done a really good job being on the beat. It's entirely possible. And I would love for one of the beat writers to get it. I've been harping on this since I got to Denver that the beat writers should get more. And that's not me. I'm not a beat writer. I am fine with not getting it. the beat writers should get it. And that's been a consistent issue. I'm just saying it'd be good to have it delivered to the fans by the people that actually cover the team. I think that would be a good thing. There's a question in the comments about with MPJ and Murray both, would you bring them back off the bench or start them? I'm curious as to your thoughts on this.
I think you probably have to bring them both off of the bench, at least initially. I almost would just, it's so hard. It's so hard. I honestly wonder if part of this is Michael Malone looking at this and going, we've won like 15 of 17 or something. Like, do we really want to rock the boat? But I'd probably bring them both off the bench. Your starters are so important. If Michael Porter is playing well, I think then you look to move him back into the starting lineup. But to begin with, I just think it's definitely going to be off the bench.
I really want to see Jamal's. I'll say that selfishly, this is the only selfish thing I will say. And again, like, I've been very consistent with Jamal's back when Jamal's back, right? And he should not feel any sort of pressure. I am very excited for that moment when he gets introduced, whether it's coming off the bench or not. Like the chills in that arena. And I'll say this, like, you need to be there. You need to be there. Bring D-line. Do the show from the arena. I found lots of weird places in the arena this weekend. We could figure out something. Put you guys up in the hockey box.
I'll tell you what, when it's announced, I probably will be there for I'll find a way to be there for sure.
It's gonna be good. Osa Blanco, what good other than pride is breaking news such as this for media members? You try and cover the team as best you can. And so these major things that's tips, like that's how capital J journalists like define themselves is, are you able to break news? Right? Like, I'm an analyst. That's just what I do. I had to sell, like, I did a lot of different things. I was a columnist and a news writer and all these types of things. Like, I'm an analyst. I've seldom and been comfortable with that, but it means a lot if you're able to get a story like that. It's significant. I think we have anything else to cover.
538 still has the Nuggets with the fourth best title odds.
Okay, let me ask you, why is 538 the one? Like, there are other ones. Why is 538 the one that you like the best? Because it's whatever you think is okay.
Literally, my answer is because it's the only one I know. It's like the easiest one to find. Yeah, I don't know who else has it.
Basketball Reference also has it.
Basketball Reference does?
Yeah.
Their metrics are usually pretty like game score and stuff. Those ones seem like metrics from 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, but I think Raptors a little bit too. It's a little. It winds up being overly player focused, and this is one of the things I think is really fascinating with metrics. And I deal with this a lot with the betting side. Is like, do you be player based or team based? Because you can analyze the players, but then you're going to miss out on how well the team performs. Like, all these kind of questions are, I think, really interesting. The Nuggets currently have a 1.3% chance to win the finals, according to Basketball Reference. They do have, however, a 48.1%, which is the majority, of getting the fifth seed, and a 17.8% chance, or is the sixth seed, and a 17.8% chance of the fifth seed. Like, this has them. This only gives them a 24% chance of being in the play-in. That sounds about right to me. 3 out of 4 times. Yeah, 3 out of 4 times the Nuggets are in the playoffs outright. Sounds good to me. Okay, let's go wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and hanging out in the comments. Appreciate all you guys. We'll keep you updated on everything. We'll have post-game reaction tomorrow night after the win over the Wizards. After the game versus the Wizards. Early game again. I don't know what to do with these early games. I don't know.
I love it. We'll probably have an early Locked On Nuggets tomorrow night.
Don't know what to do. So we'll have reaction to that game, and then we'll get you covered throughout the week. On Thursday, I've got a guest, Joel Rush from Forbes.
Great.
Will be joining me. So he will be hanging out, and we'll talk about the Nuggets season after having Vinny on last week. Decided to have him on this week, and then Friday there's another game. Is that right? Is that which one is
Friday? Yeah, it's Monday. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday this week. So every other day.
After the 4 and 5, no big deal. It's fine. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have yourselves a great rest of your week. See you guys.